Good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's the Cheese Room instant reaction for the game at Nottingham Forest. We are all ecstatic because we won. But yeah, there we go. That's what I like to see. Some fake energy, fake thing. You guys early in the morning, I know, but I'm surprised you're not running around naked in the back of your shop, Davo. Anyway,
Hey, there's time yet.
So look, welcome everyone. Let's go around the room quickly. Davo, how you doing?
It's 7 a.m. kickoff. Best time to watch it. Everyone moaning about Friday night. It's good. We won the end.
All right, should we just quit there then?
Yeah.
Less than a minute. No, JP, say hi and bye, and then we'll see how many people watch this minute-long show. No, go.
G'day, everybody. It's been real. Enjoy your weekend.
I mean, Davo, it was quite a comfort break, but we're happy to be on. It was my fault for scheduling the show to start at 11 because I just didn't think we'd have that much time of injury time and all the rest of it. We should have had maybe more than 4 in the first half, but there was no way there was 8 in the second. Anyway, let's get to the game. Starting 11, same as last week. Everyone was assuming that was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to... I know that it's the staple diet of the brand, of the pods, the YouTubes, that we dissect and analyse the starting 11. But as we've got no squad and 5,000 people injured, we just pick who we got to get with.
That's right. I know that Ange, I think, said before the game, kind of like, well, yeah, unchanged lineup, but I don't really have much choice. Right. But yeah, it's kind of like that right now. But so how do you think it went? Let's go with the first half. Obviously, I think the result was better than the performance, but let's talk about things, how they went. JP, what did you think of the first half?
I thought for the first 20 minutes, we were bright, lively. I thought we were struggling as we have kind of all season with that final ball and just making it count. But we were doing well, and I was confident that it was going to end a 2 or 3 game. And then Brennan Johnson went off and the whole game changed. And I think that moving Kulusevski out of midfield meant that we were really lethargic, but I think we'll come to that later.
I mean, that's the key. Okay, it's the key discussion of the game, because I don't think any of us. I don't know. I can't speak for Dave, but I certainly wasn't happy with that substitution. I was surprised that Skip came on. But let's talk about the early chance we had from Son. I think it was Kulusevski with a little through ball. David, what did you think of that chance?
Should have put it away, and this is the issue that we have, because at the end of the day, we got rid of a great club goal scorer. It was going to happen. Fair enough, fine. But the issue that we've got is that we get all these chances early on. How we're playing is we attack high pressure early on. We create chances. We don't convert those chances. Then we got problems, and we've seen that in the last few games. But it was fortunate we're playing against a team tonight who not the greatest going forward. So Sonny should have put it away.
Yeah, JP, what did you think? You agree with Davo?
Yeah, I agree. I thought the touch was a little bit behind him, so it was challenging to get the ball where he needed it, but he still needed to do better. I think he not only needed to move it an extra inch out in front of him, and he could have whipped that into the back corner. So, yeah, he needed to do better with that shot.
Yeah, I think I was quite surprised that it didn't go in. I understand that Matt Turner made a good save because his leg's at a weird angle as he blocks it. But and when I saw the Forest lineup at the beginning, I thought, hang on, this is like watching Mourinho ball. I mean, they had back 5, 3 central midfielders and 2 strikers that weren't really strikers. This could be difficult for Spurs because we know that we've struggled against low blocks. I mean, not just this season, but pretty much since I can remember, it feels like we've struggled. I mean, like even before
since
Poch,
Harry Redknapp.
There you go, right? It's a long time, and
Yeah.
so it was just when that early chance goes begging, and we've scored early goals in lots of recent games. Where you're like, we get the first goal, and then things have gone against us, but not because of how we were playing, just because like we take advantage of that early momentum, which we always seem to have. And then, of course, today, Son misses the chance. And I mean, I think JP's right. Next 15, 20 minutes, it was all Spurs, like 80% possession. We weren't creating too much, but again, it's probably down to Forest defending deeply. But it looked like it would be
a matter of time.
Not a comfortable evening, but I mean, I wasn't worried about them scoring. I was worried of whether we could score.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think of the? I mean, do we know what happened to Brennan Johnson, Davo? Have you heard anything?
All I know is that it was officially it was a concussion sub, so you could still use your normal substitution. So obviously, being the Poirot that I am, he had a head injury, and therefore, but I couldn't quite see the incident that caused. It just seems a bit weird, and he went down, and there was that awful thing. Then he's down on the floor, and those, when his legs are kicking like that, it's like he's having that kind of reaction sometimes when you get that bad injury. But then he was obviously down on the ground for about 5 or so minutes, and he was still walked off. So obviously, it was a concussion injury. I'm not quite with my friend in Melbourne that the fact that he went on changed everything for us. I mean, he was making sporadic touches and things like that. He wasn't quite putting his foot into the game at that point in time. I think it's more to do with who came on the field next.
Yeah, it's not that Brennan Johnson was, the key factor in us stopping playing. It's that the moves we had to make because Brennan Johnson went off changed how we approached the game.
Yeah, it's interesting because we had this conversation in a little WhatsApp group at half time where we were kind of like, obviously Spurs were 1 up by this point, but we were all thinking, Skip, what are we doing to do? And I think that Seb said that he thought that bringing Skip on would help solidify midfield because we were maybe starting to lose that area at that moment. And I guess I could see that, but then why Skip? Like we've seen Højbjerg, I feel most of the season play ahead of him. It struck me as being just not the choice I would have made, not the midfield choice I would have made. And it's a weird one. And I think that at halftime, had we not scored just before the break, we'd have been discussing it even more. It would have felt like, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to be defensive against the Forest side that, frankly, can't score? I mean, that's been their biggest problem all season when Awani is not playing. And he wasn't playing tonight. So it was for Ange to be such an attacking manager, it did feel a bit odd that it was a very defensive move. And yeah, Kulusevski was pushed out to the right, which I think a lot of people don't love to see. So it was a weird one. I mean, obviously we can sit here at 2-0 and we've won the game and we're all happy and we'll forget about it. But still, it's it was an odd call. I don't know what people in the comments have been saying. I see Matt here's I'd be insulted. Yeah, I can agree with that, Matt. That did Valise come on for the last minute or so when Sonny went off? Was that him who came on? Yeah, it's.
I thought Emerson came. Didn't Emerson? No, Emerson came on for Son.
For Son,
Emerson
you're
came
right.
on for Son.
There you go. And that's the thing.
Valise came on for Decky.
Okay. So I would have brought on Emerson weirdly when Johnson went off. That would have been the choice for me. Because then you push Porro up where he wants to be anyway, let's face it. And you keep the shape. You keep that creativity in the middle of the park, which we didn't have. As soon as Kulusevski went out wide, there was nothing in the middle of the park to show that we could move the ball forward, that we could create chances. It was all, let's get it out wide. And what went wrong down the wings tonight? Because we didn't create much. What do you think, JP?
I think a lot of that has to do with Forest. I think once Brennan went off and they saw Johnson go out, Decky go out to the right, it was pretty clear what they had to do. The threats weren't going to come through the middle. They just had to stop the crosses into Richie. And they were really close up. Sonny, he got, we kicked the shit out of him pretty much all game. And Decky worked hard, but was kind of starved of a lot of good balls. So I think at that point, it really just became for Forest a really clear game plan. Don't let them get the ball out wide. And when they do, don't give them any space. I think before that move happened, you saw a lot of balls going out to Sonny with the opportunity to take on his fullback. Once Decky went off, that didn't happen. As soon as the ball went to Sonny, he had 2 men up his back.
Like, I'm going to make a leading question here, but David, do you think that Sonny took his fullback on enough in that game?
I sense a leading question, and I sense the answer would be no.
No, for me, the answer is clearly no. He never went down the wing, rarely. I think there was one time in the second half we crossed it high, but like when you know Doggy's going to make those runs, and you know that Kulusevski's on that side anyway, like the three of them, to me, were ended up in the same spaces. That's especially when you've got no space behind, you need to keep the width. And there were times, I mean, both halves really, but there were times where I thought we're so narrow, and we don't need to be this narrow, especially when we had 11 on the pitch. I wish that Johnson was the same on the other side. He never took the fullback on around the outside. It was always, I'll go, and then, no, I'll stop and pull it back. And so, like, I think that there can still be improvements there. But David, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, Johnson, as he wasn't on that long. He didn't make that much of a impression. I want him out on the right because with his pace, he can get the touchline and get some crosses in. I think that's his best side rather than being inverted. Okay, and that's what we need. Sonny, I prefer Sonny in the middle, not on the left. I mean, Sonny looked great last week against Newcastle because he was playing against a knackered and not very good Kieran Trippier at the moment. So Kieran Trippier was replicating his last season's form at Tottenham last weekend. So that's what you want to see. But I think what you're saying is that when the correct sub to make would have been to bring Hill on for Johnson. And I'm not his biggest fan.
I'm not saying that. Do you really think they
No.
would
JP wanted Hill to come on. I agree with you, HG. I want to see. I don't mind Porro going up top right. Me and you have been one of the few things we agree on is on that one, and Royale coming in on right back. That's what I'd have done, not bring on Hill.
I want Hill on because I think we know from now that Ange isn't going to do that because he likes what Porro gives him in midfield. So I wanted Hill to come on because the alternative, you just knew we saw this at Wolves. We knew exactly how this game was going to play out as soon as Skip stood up and started warming up. You go, okay. And to be fair to Skip, he had a decent game. I didn't think he played poorly. I thought he played pretty well. But the balance in midfield when we brought him on was just all gone. And we lost control of the game at that point.
Yeah, I mean, Skip, you're right. Skip on the left-hand side. I mean, I was even talking with my mum about it. I know my mum's in the comments, but this idea, she's like, he's shit. Skip, he's a load of rubbish. He never plays well. That wasn't a very good impression of my mum. But still, it was... and I was trying to explain that, no, he's not a terrible player. He just doesn't really suit what Ange is trying to do. And I believe that, because he's not great at pressing the ball. He kind of wants to sit deep and have the ball in front of him and make challenges in midfield. That's always been what he's good at. And we just don't play that way. We don't want our midfielders to do that, really. And so it feels as if Skip is kind of lost. He looks lost when he's out there. And so and the team, let's face it, we did struggle after he came on at halftime. It was still even, but we just weren't as dominant as we had been, partly because of Forest hacking our players, partly because of that's how they got a foothold in the game.
Yeah.
But the goal just before half time cheered us all up, right? I mean, we're all happy, right? So, David, what do you think of the goal?
I've always rated Richie. I've always said he's a slow burner. I don't know. I know all those who says he can't control the ball, gets caught offside too much, and reminds me of Chris Armstrong. Not reminds me, reminds you of Chris Armstrong. I never said that. I mean, but the thing is, on the very small sample of his goals for Tottenham, and we're now up to 5 or 6, 7 goals. How many? That's what, 3 headers, 4 headers? Maybe,
all headers apart from the last one, apart from the one against Newcastle, right?
He got the two against Newcastle, which was non-headers, and I'm going to be really uncharitable. I thought his second goal against Newcastle, he massively miscontrolled it and scored. I know he scored.
He got real lucky going through the legs as well.
He really did. Don't cancel me, everybody. I'm so scared of that. And so it was a perfect cross from Kulu on the right, who I say shouldn't be on the right because he cuts the side with his left. Everything that happened is against my lack of footballing knowledge that I'm known for. So great crossing from Kulu, should be deep in the middle, and a header in. Richie is best on getting a header. Maybe he doesn't have to think about it too much when he heads it in, because maybe he's that kind of player. So he's now got 3 and 2. He's in the form of his life. He's definitely going to get Player of the Month for December, if that's what's going to happen.
And he's got his old team next week. So hat-trick surely coming against Everton. I mean, you'd have to expect that now. But JP, what did you think of the goal?
Thoroughly undeserved and completely out of nothing. Richie hadn't done much all game.
Anything.
But to be honest, he's exactly the type of striker we needed in this game, because we weren't playing well. We weren't playing pretty stuff through the middle. When they were going out wide, it was going to be a high cross into the box, and he met it well. I thought Forrest defended him pretty poorly, but he did what he needed to do well.
Yeah, I mean, it's all on the cross, isn't it? I mean, you're right. Like, do you think Harry Redknapp's wife could have scored that header? Because we all know she'd have got the one that Darren Bent missed all those years ago.
Yeah.
But I think she might. The cross was brilliant. Like, there was no loop to it. It was a driven cross, and it landed exactly where Richarlison was. So you can hope that Kulusevski meant it, I don't see it enough to think that he really did if he was just trying to get it into an area. But we had a couple of other crosses in the first half that Matt Turner came and claimed very easily. But to drive it in the way that he did meant that if it hit a Spurs player from that far out, it's going to be a goal. And you're right, like it was. I think before half time, I was like, oh, like I was already waiting to see to write my thing in the cheese room WhatsApp about, I'm expecting 1-0. Forest are going to bully us. Right, we've seen this game before. We start well, we don't do anything. They come into the game and they get some scrambled winner in like the 64th minute, and that's it. To go in 1-0 up. I mean, do you think it would have changed what Ange would have said at halftime, JP?
No, I don't think it would have changed what Ange had said, but I do think that maybe subconsciously it changed the way we approached and the energy we approached the second half with. Certainly for Forest, it changed the way they approached the game. From that point out. So it had an impact. It's one of those ones where you scored so late in the half that you maybe wonder whether it would have been better scoring earlier in the second. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm not arguing about at what point in the game that we score a goal. We score a goal, that's all good. 1-0 up. I don't care.
There are definitely better times to score goals.
Okay, all right. We'll leave that one there.
The cliche central. I don't know what the cliches are in Australia, but the one I grew up with was that just before half time is a great time to score a goal because the other team can't do anything about it, and it changes their team to may not change yours, but it should definitely change theirs. And you're right, JP. In the second half, Forest did have to change the way they played. They did have to be a bit more aggressive in midfield, kind of how they were at the end of the first half too. But it just meant they knew that they had to. They couldn't just wait for a set piece. They had to go out and try and score a goal. And so that definitely helped. But okay, halftime comes in, 1-0 up. We go out the second half. Skip's still on the pitch. Like in my head, I'm already thinking, hey, if that concussion, if that concussion sub just doesn't really count as one of our 5, let's just use one of the 5. And being really harsh because Skip, you're right. In the second half, he was much better. At the end of the first half, I think there was one time we went to push the player over and couldn't even do that. But second half we come out. I think Forest, to be fair, probably had the better of the opening part. I don't remember too much happening, but then we got the second. Davo, tell me, what do you make of that?
I think that the first part of the second half, I've had tech issues all night, so I finally got the Chrome working, but the commentary wasn't syncing up to what the action was. So the commentary was 2 minutes on to what the action was, and I was getting very confused as to what's going on. You know,
there's a joke in here about Australia and the rest of the world, but I won't say it.
Not even in that context. I didn't know something. Anyway, so a bit of a mistake by their keeper, who I think is a former Gooner, and Kulusevski again. It's a mea culpa time for me. I think for the best part of a year, I don't think he's been playing very well. Even at the start of the season, as I said, it always irritates me when he keeps stepping in on the inside and puts in a shit cross. But I really think in the last 2 months, he's really stepped up. I think he's becoming a very integral part of the team. I know that he does a lot of work for the team. I get that, but I think he's better in a deeper position. And I think we suffered when Skip came on. He wasn't in that deeper position. So, he's now getting, in the last few months or so, or last few games, he's getting assists and goals and things like that. So he's working very hard for the team. One assumes that someone he loves in his life is pregnant, or for some reason he's gone in a Gaza kind of celebration. I've no idea. But that's good to see. And I think he's enjoying life under Ange as well. And I think, and it's amazing thing. I know it's a cliche. We always say he's only 23. He looks a lot bloody older than 23. So I'm pleased for him. And it was a crucial time because we were, you could sense a typical Tottenham thing. We go 1-0 up. We made the change at half. We made a sub. You can see the crowd are getting going and this, that, and the other. They're not a great team, but you could just see it going a bit Wolves. So the goal was crucial, and he did well.
Yeah, JP.
I thought actually Sonny deserves a lot of credit for forcing. Is it Turner, their goalkeeper?
Yes,
for forcing him into that error. Makes 2 errors really because he kicks it straight to Decky, and then Decky's shot. I mean, he's got to be saving that. It basically goes through his hands. So there's a lot of power in it, but he needed to do better. But yeah, I think Sonny deserves a lot of credit for kind of pressing and closing down the keeper to force the error.
It's interesting that, like, when you watch the replay, like, he's got his hands up. It's Davo will remember this, the whole Eric Torsvet, that, like, on TV business, right? But I feel like if he just left his hands by his side, the ball would have smacked him
Just smacked
straight
him
in the face, and he
Yeah.
probably would have saved it. Like,
Yeah.
Decky, it was brilliant. I mean, if he aimed for his face, like, you're ex-Gooner, I don't care what happens here, I'm going to kick it straight at you. But yeah, 2-0. I think we all
Scott Carson levels. That's what you were looking for.
just take one for the team, Matt. You know,
Yeah.
I know you've got the awful pervert beard. I mean, I don't know where he's from in the US, but you know, you're looking at, like, you know, Midwest. It's a bad look. I don't know how bad their other keeper is. Who obviously conceded 5 at Fulham, so maybe he's terrible too. But yeah, Matt Turner. Every time I've seen him, I've thought, man, if that's the American goalkeeper, the rest of the team is all right, but I'm not sure the keeper is.
And in keeping with my great fantasy league that I'm having this season, Matt Turner is in my squad. Thank you.
I have to give Decky some plaudits, because at the start of the season, when it looked like we were umming and ahhing over whether we were going to re-sign Decky. I was a little bit like, maybe we don't. I was probably in your camp, Davo. And I thought that in the end, I was like, you know, he's a decent backup right winger. But he's been outstanding. And I think without Decky this year, we're probably 9 points worse off. We don't win this game, definitely.
Yeah.
There were even moments. I mean, I think everyone remembers the game at Luton when we went down to 10 men, and he basically almost played up front by himself. It felt like at times, and yeah, he is the kind of, like we always talk at Spurs about, you know, we want to have like the best 11 we can, and I'm not sure many of us would put Kulusevski in our best 11 if all were fit, but he's basically number 12. Like, if there's any kind of attacking substitution that you're going to want to make, Decky's probably going to be it right now. If even when all are fit. So he's a great player to have at Spurs. We did for signing him, even if I don't love the fact that Levy went all cheapo about it and renegotiated it. Just pay it anyway. Come on now.
He did what? What did he do? I didn't hear that. What did he say?
He renegotiated the deal that was already in place to save a few bob. Basically.
Did he?
I can't remember how much it was. Maybe 3 million, 5 million. I mean, obviously it was an amount that we want to spend on someone else if we can. I understand it, but it just felt like you've already made the deal. Come on now, like there's no need to be that kind of person about it. But that's just me.
I've got nothing to say on that subject.
Okay, good.
Hey, Shea,
yeah, go on.
Just on the point of Decky kind of moving out to the right, we've seen it twice now. What do you make of Sarr in that more advanced 10 position?
I mean, I think it works because whoever's down the right hand side with him are so attacking that he almost basically plays Porro's position anyway, right? Like he's very disciplined. He doesn't he's not great going forward. I don't think Sarr's going to score you many goals. I don't think he's going to create you many goals. I don't even think he's going to make too many runs to drag defenders out of position. That happens sometimes, but rarely. His job is he sits more than anyone else. Like, he and Bissouma do tend to just want the ball and keep the ball and move the ball, but I don't want him doing the things that the Celso has done, Kulusevski has done, and Madison has done. That's like, as much as I love Sarr, and there are clearly games that we're going to need someone like that. Tonight, like if he's not, tonight it was one of his worst games for Spurs. I thought Sarr, first half especially, second half he got a bit better, but
I think that's a big symptom of him, because we moved him to be that more advanced, in the Madison role. I just don't think it works for him. But he's not terrible. I don't think it works for him. But equally, I think the team is so much worse off whenever he's not playing that role kind of on the right-hand side and being a little bit more reserved. He gives us so much. He allows everyone else to go and do their thing.
So if you had everyone fit, who's your midfield three?
See, at the start of the season, I would have said Bissouma, Bentancur, Madison. But I actually think now it's maybe Bentancur, Sarr, Madison.
See, this is it. Like, can I sit on the fence a bit and say it would depend on the opponent, right? Like, if I'm playing Man City away, then I want Sarr in it. Right?
This isn't the instant reaction show where we're meant to be really irrational and react.
All right.
Have another go at that. Go.
Right, so it's Bentancur for sure, because I think he's the best midfielder we've got, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of where he plays. Bentancur, Madison, and No, probably not Saar. Like it's because Bissouma in a really good three, we've seen what Bissouma can do, right? He struggles maybe when the other two aren't as good on the ball as he is, but yeah,
I just think you don't get as much out of Porro if you don't have Saar.
yeah. No, I mean I would agree with that, and that's the thing. Like if you want to look at our best performances this year, right? I mean, I can't remember because that Aston Villa 30 minutes at the start was really, really good. I felt like that was better than anything, but I'm not sure if Saar played that. I can't remember if because he certainly missed one or two.
No,
Maybe he missed that one.
Yeah,
because it was. I know it was Bentancur was the 6, and I know that the Celso was playing, but I can't remember who the third one was for that game. So it's all about getting the balance right, and Saar does provide it absolutely. It will be interesting to see what happens in midfield now that Bissouma's out for 4 games, and Bentancur's out for still for a while. That who ends up playing that 6? Because to me,
Saar.
it's still Saar, and I think that Ange will probably go Højbjerg because that's what we've seen. But to me, Saar is the one who's just the most comfortable with the ball at his feet, and that's what you need from a 6. But we can talk about why Bissouma is not going to be around, right? The game is 2-0 up. We're cruising. I'm thinking my 3-0 prediction might actually come true, even though we haven't played that well. And then Bissouma goes and does what he does. Stavo, tell me how negative you are about Bissouma right now.
Okay, so when we signed him, I was very excited, very happy. Brighton fans, and I got a really good mate of mine, Brighton fan, was gutted that he's leaving. And it was a proper old-fashioned deal. No one knew anything about it. There was no haggling, no nothing. We signed him, bang, done. And I was really pleased about it. Last season, you can put that down to everyone goes, well, Conte, whatever, right? And he didn't have a good season last season. And then he started looking better towards the end of the season, freed from the shackles of Conte. This season, he started really well. Since Luton, he's been poor. And that tackle tonight, we're 2-0 up against a team that are not very good going forward. And it was a shocking challenge. I think somebody, who I won't name who he is, Caller, said it was a glancing tackle or something like that. I mean, it was a disgraceful challenge. And, I've been openly questioning Romero and his temperament for the challenges that he makes and hearing, stuff like, you can't take it out of his game. It's nonsense. You read the game. He's not a kid. It was he should. What's he now out now? 4 jazz hands. There we go. What's he out now for? 4 games, 5 games, whatever.
We won't see him until February.
Is that? You said it was his 3rd sending off. There was Luke. Oh, he was off again. Who else was off against Chelsea?
Luton was the other sending off. Yeah.
He's missed games because of the 5 yellows.
Right. So we're not even about the halfway point of the season, and it's 3 occasions for him to be suspended in that role, right? Yeah. So I'm not writing him off, but if we played against a low block team at the lane or whatever, and the romantic would have you as even and everyone's fit, you'd have Bentancur, Kulu, Madison, do it like that. I appreciate you got changed, but that was bloody stupid what he did tonight, and you could just see it all. We're 2-0 up, we're comfortable, we're done. Game's done. And then he put pressure on us. And you could see the expression on Ange's face. I think they even showed a clip of when they showed it up on the screen and they panned in on Ange. He's not happy about that. So what is a concern is around the lack of discipline that we have. We're all excited about the football and it's miles better than we've seen in the last few years. But I'm concerned about a lack of discipline. And it's all very well going, oh, it's Romero, it's Bissouma, things like that. It's stupidity that puts us in situations. If you're up against a team that was much better than Forest and much better at putting away chances and going forward, we'd have some problems. So as you may assume, I'm annoyed.
I thought that, definitely deserved to be sent off for what we've seen. I think he's a little bit unlucky. It's the circumstances that's giving him 4, because it's not like he lunged in and he kind of followed through, Romero-esque. He's done a lazy challenge for the ball and left his foot through. And it was just stupid. But we're going to miss him. I mean, we're not going to get him back till after AFCON now.
Yeah. Can someone explain to me why some fouls are worthy of a 3-game ban and some are just a 1-match ban? Like as in because I think you can have a straight red and it only be a 1-match ban. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Because that tackle feels to me like a red card and a 1-match ban feels like a fair punishment for what he did. A red card in 4 matches.
Since the other red card was 2 yellows, and that was a 1-match ban. So 4 seems excessive. Like I don't understand what the rules are. I don't know the rule. That's why I'm asking. But it's still a 4-game ban for that. Like I mean, Caller's right to an extent that it is a glancing challenge, but it's also Davo. Like it's the dumbest thing he could have done. It's Ryan Yates, for crying out. You're not the last man. Ryan Yates is a troll. Right, like he is the absolute the definition of an English midfield trier. He'll give everything, but you don't expect him to put one in the top corner from 30 yards. You don't expect him to show any skill. He is there to just make life difficult. And so you think, okay, you've hit it a bit too far ahead of you. You want to win the ball back. I get that, but you can't lift your head. You lift your foot that high. I mean, it's just lazy. That's what it is. And I think that, that may be something that you could assume that you could think of Bissouma is that he's so confident in himself and what he can do that sometimes it is an overconfidence that then it's like, oh crap, and he doesn't know how to manage that jump. Like he's in control of everything, and when he's not in control, suddenly it's the worst thing in the world. And I think that's what we saw. Like I can't remember when the red card was, sometime around 70 minutes, 75 minutes, something like that.
It was
But yeah, like you're thinking, great, we've now got 20 minutes of the cavalry. Like Forest are going to be up for this, and we've all watched Spurs enough to know that if they got one, we're in trouble. Right? We'd be in real trouble. They brought on Chris Wood, and you start to think, what's coming, and you look at our back line and you think, okay, no one's really above 6 foot apart from Richarlison and Kulusevski, and Richarlison's about to be subbed. So, we're struggling. We're absolutely struggling at that point, and Bissouma is the reason. And it's the type of dumb thing that could get Bissouma kind of sold almost. Like I think if Ange can't trust him, like if he's putting us in these positions regularly, there's a problem. Doesn't matter how good you are. It becomes a mentality thing. And we've heard from Ange, I think this week or a couple of weeks ago, where he said, it doesn't matter how good the player is, right? If the mentality isn't right, then there's a problem. And Bissouma, we can't allow it. It's like, especially when we're at the situation we are with midfielders. Right, like Lo Celso might be back for next week. We don't know how bad that is. But again, Lo Celso is not a midfielder that Ange really wants to play. He wants Bissouma, he wants Bentancur, he wants Maddison. None of them are available. And Bissouma is not available because of Bissouma, not because of a tackle from Matty Cash, not because whatever some Chelsea player did. It is down to him, and we can't have it. It's got to improve.
You make an interesting point about confidence, actually, because you would definitely say that last season, as the season went on, and I know he got injured and this, that, and the other, that his confidence went down under Conte, right? Mm-hmm. And then once he's played the last 2 or 3 games of last season, which was an absolute shocker, the only bright spot was Bissouma, and you could see psychologically the shackles have been lifted off him, and he's been told, go out and do your thing. And then he starts the season under a new coach. I remember Ange said that, in the early training sessions, he turned up late for training. He took him to one side and he had a word, right? And then you could see that at the start of the season, the first few, up until Luton or whatever, he was playing really well. He was looking like the player that we bought. And then since then, you could, maybe you argue, he's got overconfident in terms of where he thinks he's up to, and he's made it and stuff like that. But it's the point, in some ways, I still think the point equally applies to Romero. You've got to trust these players in these situations. In a crucial game, and do something stupid like that, then we are in a lot of problems. So, as we're saying now, he's out until February. He hasn't got him until February in the position, an area of the field that we've got a truckload of injuries. And I don't think Ange is the type of person who's going to forget that.
And I mean, if we look at it at its worst, right? We've lost 3 players tonight for the next game. We don't know if Johnson's going to be out, but let's say he is,
Yeah.
then Basuma can't play. Udogie can't play because he's got his 5th yellow, and then Johnson's out as well. And suddenly, I mean, we like at some point Brian Hill's going to get minutes, which clearly Ange doesn't want. So is that what the squad is trying to do? Trying to make sure that Brian will start another game? And because I look around and I think Højbjerg's going to start these games, which again Ange hasn't really wanted to do that at all this season. So it's a tough one. You know, we've got Everton on the next Saturday, and then after that, I think it's 5 days to Brighton, and then and then 3 days to Bournemouth. Sorry, JP, go.
How many days till Everton? Because Brennan was concussion. Okay, cool. So Brennan can be back because I think there's like 5 or 6 days if you get a concussion sub that you can't play a game.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So Brennan should be good for Everton, which is important.
Fingers crossed. Because I mean, like even with the doggy out, what do we do at the back then? Are we going to go back to? I mean, will it be Royal and Romero? You'd have Royal play left back, right? Is that what we're going to end up doing?
Royal at left back will be what we do.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I know that. Like,
and I wouldn't underestimate Everton at the moment. They're on a bit of a high. They're playing well. Yeah,
it's a bad time to play them for sure. Well, we would have been nice to play them opening day like we have done a number of times, but right now they're one of the form teams, I think, and Bournemouth too. And in Bournemouth we've got at the end of December, so I think lots of people looked at these games and thought, okay, this is where we're going to turn things around. And to be fair, we've won 2. Right, we've won 2 on the spin. We're level with Man City. We can start the weekend feeling happy. Right, we can watch the teams ahead of us. Hopefully, they'll all lose, and we'll gain points in all of them, and we'll start to think that maybe the impossible might be possible. But I'm not giving up, Davo. Like I feel like cooler, but I know that Liverpool have to play Arsenal next weekend. I think it is the same day we play Everton. They play each other.
Yeah.
And it's always weird how that works out, that the 2 North London teams and the 2 Liverpool teams end up playing each other the same weekend. Anyway, I don't know. Like it's like Spurs are really struggling for numbers, and our first 11. Like I feel like we've always had a decent first 11 in the last 4 or 5 games that we've had these issues, but now we are kind of struggling. It's going to mean a midfield 3 that might not have a creative player, which we saw at Wolves doesn't work. It's I mean, I don't want to be negative. We'll find out next week what the situation is, but January 1st and the thought of signing new players can't come quick enough, surely.
Yeah, either Lo Celso has to be fit or Brian Hill has to play in the next game. Otherwise, you're looking at a midfield 3 of Højbjerg, Skip, and Sarr.
Oh, that was Wolves away, wasn't it?
I don't think Skip started that one.
It was Basuma. It was Basuma against Sarr.
That's a Nuno Palace away, wasn't it? That was Skip, Winks, and Højbjerg. Oh.
The best case scenario we can hope for is Brennan's fit. I think there's a chance that he just didn't want to play Hill today because of the way that Forest were playing against our wingers and being close, and he just thought he's not strong enough to play that way. But ideally, you would have Sarr, Lo Celso, and Decky in midfield, and then Brennan, Hill, and Richarlison, Sonny probably.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Like, if Brennan's fit, you could have Brennan and Son as the wingers, and then Richarlison up top.
Yeah,
and then Brian can still have his favourite seat on the bench. The Eric Limmer that he basically has become, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the number 11 never plays, sits on the bench. At least Brian Hill is never injured, and he goes away and wins trophies when he's on loan. Mm-hmm. But I feel like for the last couple of games we thought, okay, we've got options. What is Ange going to do? And last week he picked a team and we won quite comfortably. And so this week we expect the same team, and now next week we're back to square one again. Like we've only got so many pegs for so many holes, and they're not all going to fit.
I mean, it's back to your point that you're making about could we, and there is an opportunity there for us this season, because obviously we're not playing European football, which means you can get away with a smaller squad. And obviously, amazing how the team have transformed, and still there is a way to go. Playing a new system under a new coach who is, the last 3 coaches all pretty much played the same way, yeah. And I think there's that opportunity there. I mean, you look at Chelsea, they got massive problems. You got United, they got a lot of injury problems. They might come back better once all their players come back, but their season is not looking great. The Gooners, I still think the Gooners are a good shout to win the league. Liverpool, I've been most impressed with. And then you've got City, who are going to, always going to be there. So the opportunity for fourth place is there very much. I don't think fifth will come up now, given our expert in Europe with his coefficient screensaver. And you would imagine now that when Newcastle are totally out of Europe, aren't they? They're not in the Europa.
Yeah, totally
so
out.
they're going to, and although they got a truckload of injury problems, and I suspect a few dodgy loan deals in January with Newcastle and certain areas of the globe. So you would sense they're the threat, I think, for fourth. And I think that
Villa.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry. Villa. You've got Villa. You've got Newcastle. Villa, you hope carry on in the Conference League forever and a day. That's our chance. But we've got an opportunity there to get fourth, which in a season where we've got no European football should be fine. But every game we play, we seem to kill ourselves more suspensions and injuries.
Yeah, this is the key point here. It's Brett. Aston Villa don't have the injuries that Newcastle have, that Spurs have. It's one of the reasons why they are where they are. I think they won 4 or 5 of their Conference League group games. They won their group. They're in the last 16 of that, so they know they're not going to play until March time in that competition. They're in a pretty good position. I mean, Villa, we all know that only 1 or 2 injuries could derail it. Who's their striker if Watkins gets injured? What are they going to do in certain areas? But they seem to be pretty well stocked all over. And for Newcastle and Spurs, that's a massive issue because Villa are winning games at home against everyone, right? And for Spurs to somehow kind of get fourth and overtake Villa, if we assume that Villa are the ones that are most catchable, well, we have to go to Villa and we have to go to Newcastle because we've just played them both at home. So that won't be easy for us either. However, we're within 4 points of top and we've played 17 games of the season, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
I know that the other teams have to play tomorrow, the rest of the weekend, and they could go further ahead. But it still feels like even the year that we were chasing Leicester, even the year that we were chasing Chelsea, were we ever that close? There was that moment we were 20 minutes ahead at the top of the table in the Leicester season when we played Arsenal at home.
Yeah.
But it feels like at that point I never thought a title challenge was possible. And so to be where we are and have a slight glimmer when they put up things on Sky Sports and says, who has the chances of a title? And there are 5 teams and Spurs are up there. You're like, oh, okay.
Right.
Like I don't really believe it. I don't think anyone really believes it. But it's nice to even think that we're not really focusing on. I mean, we just had a 5-minute conversation about it, but none of us are really focusing about. Oh, we really want fourth because we just want to win games. We know that winning games is what's going to get us there, and there isn't this. At least I don't want to plan for the rest of the year because none of us thought we'd be where we are in terms of points, in terms of performances, and in terms of injuries. Where we are, no one could have predicted. And so it's still a fun time to be a Spurs fan. Christmas is here. The darts started today. I mean, it doesn't get much more Christmassy than watching the darts. But
I think it's a good point. Sorry, no, you finish your sentence.
No, go. It's okay.
I was just going to say, it's a good time to be a Spurs fan point that watching that game today, as disappointing as it was that we didn't take control like we usually do and we, lost players and it didn't quite work. If you were to stack that game up against any game we played last year, pick any game, still 50% more enjoyable. Played so much better than any game we played last year. And we're talking about that being a pretty disappointing, dull affair. So it's still all positive. And I think we get to the end of January, we get players back. The second half of the season, there's a lot to look forward to. That team that went on that 10-match streak is coming back with a group of squad players around them who've now had match minutes and understand what's required, plus the opportunity to deepen in the January window. The second half of the season could be quite exciting. If we can keep it within kind of 5 points of, the top 4, I think we're a good shout to do something big in the second half.
And I'm sorry to be old-fashioned and living in the 80s. I want us to have a decent cup run. Yeah, I want a decent cup run. And I think that's really important for the morale of the club and the supporters. I really do think that. And that's what was disappointing to me about the Fulham away in the League Cup. Now, I know we got knocked out in a penalty, but the fact that he, started the second string team, we need a decent cup run. It really does a lot for the morale of the supporters and the club. Okay. And, we've got Burnley. And we've got how many players we've got out against Burnley? Quite a few now.
Quite a few, yeah.
Yeah, I know. So
I mean,
it's really important.
It could be more. We've got a few games for a few more injuries and a few more suspensions. I don't think I'm that negative, but I'm also aware that Spurs can just punch you in the gut. I fully expect Burnley to knock us out. I do. May not be at home, but there will be a replay. There could be a replay. And that just strikes me as it would be something that we don't really want to play. We don't really want to do. And all the same things will come out about how Levy doesn't want us to do all the domestic trophies. I don't believe that. But it just feels like it's a draw we could have done without. I would have liked, okay, we got the home tie, great. But a chance where we could have played maybe 2 or 3 of the kids and not weakened us too much. But Burnley, we can't really do that. We may be forced to just because of injuries, but I don't want Spurs to look at that Burnley game and say, right, it's a chance to throw in 4 or 5 kids and give them their debuts and all the rest of it, because then you will get knocked out. And it would have been nice to have that option against Port Vale or whoever is still in the, Ashford United. I don't know.
Port Vale. Mate, take on the mighty Alfie Devine. No chance.
Well, no, he wouldn't have been able to play. So we'd have been like, great, we knock out their best player and we'll have them. I don't expect it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. And it goes back to the year when we lost in the third round, I think, to Leicester. They came back and beat us, and we were out. That season, we lost in the first round of both cup competitions. Yeah, but that also might have been the season that we got.
That was Lasagna Gate season.
Okay. Was it really that season?
Yeah, that was
long ago.
Yeah, that was Lasagna Gate season, and that was when I think Gregor Zayek played his last game for the club, Leicester away. And that's where we were. But I just think that if you look at January can either be a beautiful, beautiful month or the world's biggest cluster, not saying the word, and upsetting our algorithm, because you've got the January transfer window. Ange wants it done early, and we do a poro. I believe the go-kart track's opening in January, and then we get knocked out of the cup. Now, I know I'm accused of being Levy out and this, that, and the other, but I'm advising the club with the best of hearts, open that go-kart track in February or March. I'm telling you. Take my advice.
Too much ammunition. Yeah.
It's just a munitions factory of ammunition if all those things happen. But if we buy players early in January, if we're in the FA Cup, we win the third round, I think the fourth round is the end of January. So that's all right, yeah. And we buy some players, and that go-kart track is opened up by David Lammy, MP, and all the rest of it. Happy days for everyone. It's a very binary outcome.
We're going to have to do something early in the cup, because I'm just looking at now. If you think our prospects of midfielder light next week, we'll take Sarr out of that equation as well and take Son out of it. And you're literally having to play Brian Hill because there's no one else. And you're going to have Skip Højbjerg and hopefully Lo Celso.
I could see a front 2 at this point. Because we did that today, and it was Richarlison and Kulusevski, I think, for a while. But Kulusevski has played in the front 2 for Sweden. I've seen him do that. He plays alongside Alexander Isak. It's weird because Ange doesn't really change anything. So you'd think that maybe players like Sunset Bell, who scored a great goal for the under-21s in midweek, there are players doing well at academy level that maybe you'd have thought would be certainly in the squad now or coming closer to getting minutes. We're kind of at that point where maybe the subs bench will just be academy players pretty soon, and Skip.
I think that, as much as we've said we don't want to see it because Burnley are not the team to play the kids against, on the 6th of January, we might be in a position where we have to.
Yeah.
Why? That's very true. Because of all injuries, suspensions, you mean?
All the injuries, suspensions, and then you've got all the players away at the Asian Cup and the AFCON.
Yeah, because I think even though neither of those competitions don't start, I think until mid
They're all
January,
gone by the end of December.
they're allowed to leave. Exactly, they're allowed to
Yeah.
go earlier. So I think Jurgen was like, "I'm taking Sonny January 2nd or whatever it is."
Yeah.
And we're like, "Oh, okay, so he can't. He won't play that FA Cup game."
No.
So yeah, it just strikes me as like I'm expecting it. As awful as that sounds, I am expecting that for the second half of the season we have league games. But as JP says, if everyone's back fit, I'm all right with that because we've got a really good first 11 who we know can get results pretty much anywhere. So it's not a bad time. It just, I agree with Davo. We'd love to see a cup run, but I guess I'm already preparing myself. I've been a Spurs fan for too long. One last thing before we finish. I don't think there's anything from the game that I've missed, has there?
No.
Most of the things
I thought as good as Richarlison's header was,
Mhm.
Ben Davies was just as easy that he nodded over from that corner. He really he should have scored that one.
That's true. That was a good chance. When you get the end on it, you should do better. I mean, Vicario obviously made a couple of saves at the end.
The one off his shins.
Yeah.
Goal
More
line,
luck than judgment, but you got to be there, and he made it. And then we had the bit of luck when the shot came off the post and it was kind of scooped behind.
Yeah.
So, again, we can sit here like Spurs. It wasn't a great performance. It really wasn't. But we got the same result we got last year at Forest. We played better than we played last year at Forest. We were awful that day.
Yeah, we were.
And probably when you guys were asleep, there was a late rumor that there's a centre-back, a Romanian centre-back who plays in Italy, who might be on his way for a rumoured 30 million. We know Anne just talked about we need another centre-back. That could happen. Italian football, they tend to have money issues. So if we're willing to splash a fair chunk of money, that could happen. I think his name is Dragusin.
Okay.
He's kind of got the Bale man bun thing, but I don't think he's got the bald spot man bun thing that Bale had.
Is he any good at golf?
But Formula One, I think, is why he's signing. The idea of he can do that.
Right.
But I suspect a load of Spurs fans will check out whatever YouTube videos they can. But he's, I think, young, 22, almost 23, seems to play both sides. Apparently he started tonight against Juventus. I haven't seen the highlights, obviously, because we've been doing this. But that seems to be a link that we all want to believe in because we know we need a centre-back and we know that Anne just talked about it. So maybe January 1st, that could happen. But, we've spent 10, 15 minutes discussing how midfield and attack are going to be in trouble. So we need more than just one, for sure.
I think this is the brilliance of Levy, really, is that whilst fans want to slag him off for putting in go-kart tracks, the truth is the go-kart track, having the golf course at the training ground as well, all ploys to help get players in. Essential in the recruitment process.
Oh,
Well
I
done.
see.
Yeah,
The fact that we're attracting people to London above Chelsea and the Goons is to say that we've got a go-kart track and a golf track.
Well,
I see. I didn't realise.
Is this the equivalent of having a football table at work?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
For the rest of us, you can have free snacks. There's fruit available in the kitchen if you want it. And suddenly for football players, it's golf courses and F1 tracks. And
is it the equivalent of buying Gazza's parents a house and other such payments and things that got us a points deduction? We've learned from that, and now we're building go-kart tracks.
Building go-kart tracks, yeah.
I see. It's good. Thanks.
This is the recruitment policy at the moment. It's all data-driven. What do they like? What are their interests outside of football? Go-karting. Right, we need to get a go-kart track in there.
Right, okay.
All right.
If I can just put out the comment of the night. Thank you for that.
Man, if you didn't know what Norman was referring to,
we don't need to talk
that
about
comment
it.
Is also very, very. Anyway.
I know it works on two levels, so on both levels,
especially for a character from a prison, works really well.
It does work very well. Thank you. Comment of the night, well done. And the other person who put up that Valise is a poor man's Connor Wickham is also second comment of the night. I thought that was very good. No, it was good.
Brilliant. So look, thanks everyone for the comments. Davo, JP, thanks for joining us. Any last words from you two?
A very convenient time for us to watch the game, and we appreciate it. And thank you to the Premier League. David, what's his name? Pruton, whatever, is one of the worst commentators I've ever heard in my life. And that's probably how a certain person in New Zealand feels about hearing me on this, and then a certain other person. But not Merry Christmas. We'll be on before then. Thank you very much.
I'll just say, Jared Gillette, I know you were worried about the Australian bias, but you went too far, mate. It's like a parent teaching their own child at school. Don't ref our games again.
Yeah, he was awful. I don't know how many bookings we had before they got one, but we had a sending off. I feel like before they got one, it was a terrible referee.
Who's their captain? What's his name?
I think it's Yates. Yates.
Yates.
Saar and Udogie's yellow cards. Yates had done about 6 of those same fouls before, but they're on their first one. They get yellows. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think even Yates did the whole show a yellow card.
Yeah, he did which is a yellow card.
Yeah, so anyway. We only want one Aussie in the Premier League, and it's not a referee, so he can sod off home. But for those of you who have watched the entire 55 minutes of this epic, thank you so much. We will see you on Monday night, I suspect, for another review or a discussion of various things. Maybe we'll dream about possible transfers. But until then, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully the Goons will lose. Hopefully Liverpool will lose. And hopefully we can start dreaming just that little bit more. But take care, everyone. I'll now hit the outro button.